Welcome to Uncovered Biblical History and Traditions, the channel dedicated to lost stories of the biblical past. Discover stories of pre-Christian historical roots, biblical legends, lost church history and forgotten historical characters of faith. It is very helpful if you hit the like, subscribe and share. Help build my channel and let's take a look together into these uncovered forgotten tales. What if the Apostle Paul, the same Paul who wrote nearly half of the New Testament, traveled to the distant shores of Britain in the 1st century and left behind profound teachings? Today, we're diving into one of the most intriguing documents in early Christian history, the Triads of Saint Paul. These aren't typical biblical verses. They're structured in groups of 3, following ancient Celtic tradition. The question that has haunted scholars for centuries: did Paul really visit Britain, and are these teachings authentically his? I'm your host Alan, and welcome. We're about to explore a mystery that bridges the Mediterranean cradle of Christianity and the misty, mysterious land of ancient Britain. For most of us, Paul's story is firmly rooted in the Mediterranean world: Turkey, Greece, Italy. But there's fascinating historical evidence suggesting otherwise. The document we're examining mentions the Paulian Manuscript, an ancient text at Merton College, Oxford, containing letters between St. Paul and Seneca, the famous Roman philosopher. These letters allegedly reference Paul's residence in Siluria, an ancient kingdom in what is now South Wales. Bishop Burgess boldly stated, "Of Paul's journey to Britain we have as satisfactory proof as any historical question can demand." That's remarkable, but let's examine what these triads actually say, because whether Paul wrote them or not, they contain wisdom that has resonated through centuries. The triads follow a distinctly Celtic pattern, organizing wisdom into groups of 3, the hallmark of bardic tradition. Yet the content is unmistakably Christian. The first triad classifies humanity. There are 3 sorts of men: the man of God, who renders good for evil; the man of men, who renders good for good and evil for evil; and the man of the devil, who renders evil for good. This is practical philosophy. The man of God represents the highest ideal, absorbing injury and responding with kindness, echoing Jesus' teaching to love your enemies. The man of men represents most of us, operating on reciprocity. But the man of the devil repays good with evil, behavior characterized as literally demonic. The second triad identifies what delights God. 3 kinds of men are the delights of God: the meek, the lovers of peace, the lovers of mercy. Notice how the triad format makes it memorable, portable. In an age before printing, wisdom had to be packaged in ways the mind could easily grasp. The number 3, across cultures, has always been sacred. The third triad. There are 3 marks of the children of God: gentle deportment, a pure conscience, patient suffering of injuries. Not just what delights God, but what marks someone as belonging to God's family. Gentleness, internal moral clarity, endurance without bitterness, these reveal character. The fourth triad outlines our obligations. There are 3 chief duties demanded by God: justice to every man, love, humility. A complete ethical framework in 5 words. Justice ensures fairness, love provides warmth that justice alone cannot supply, and humility prevents the arrogance that corrupts both. The 5th triad goes somewhere mystical. In 3 places will be found the most of God, where he is mostly sought, where he is mostly loved, where there is least of self. God isn't found in grand cathedrals but where he's genuinely sought, authentically loved, and where human ego has diminished. That last phrase cuts to the heart of spiritual practice. The self, with its endless demands, obscures the divine. The 6th triad offers promises. There are 3 things following faith in God: a conscience at peace, union with heaven, what is necessary for life. Not wealth or fame, but peace of conscience, spiritual connection, and provision for basic needs. The 7th is perhaps most radical. 3 ways a Christian punishes an enemy: by forgiving him, by not divulging his wickedness, by doing him all the good in his power. Spiritual judo. The punishment is overwhelming grace, forgiveness, discretion, and active goodwill. It completely disarms the expected pattern of revenge. The remaining triads outline Christian considerations and proper approach to material things. The three chief considerations of a Christian: lest he should displease God, lest he should be stumbling block to man, lest his love to all that is good should wax cold. The three luxuries of a Christian feast: what God has prepared, what can be obtained with justice to all, what love to all may venture to use. These aren't rules, they're invitations to a completely different way of thinking about life. The final triad is particularly touching. Three persons have the claims and privileges of brothers and sisters: the widow, the orphan, the stranger. In the ancient world, these three represented the most vulnerable. This triad calls the community to recognize them not as charity cases, but as family with claims, privileges, and rights. Now, the question of authenticity. Did Paul write these? Our source says preservation is due to the core of Ilid, with Ilid identified as the man of Israel, who was chief architect and chief priest, suggesting a Jewish-Christian connection in ancient Britain. The Paulian manuscript at Merton College adds intrigue. Scholars debate the Paul-Seneca letters, most dismiss them as later forgeries, possibly 4th century. But others argue elements could be genuine or preserve authentic traditions. The Siluria reference is particularly puzzling. Siluria was real, a Welsh kingdom that fiercely resisted Rome. Why invent a story about Paul visiting such a remote, resistant region? Bishop Fergus's confident assertion is tantalizing but frustrating. What proof was he referencing? Were there other documents, now lost? Oral traditions in Welsh churches? Here's what we know. Early Christian tradition spoke of Paul's intention to travel to the ends of the earth, and specifically to Spain. Britain, to Romans, was even further west, truly at the world's edge. By the 3rd century, British bishops attended continental church councils. Where did this Christian community originate? The triadic form is genuinely puzzling if these are simply forgeries. Why would a medieval forger structure Pauline wisdom in distinctly Celtic format? It's like writing a Confucian document as haikus. It doesn't make sense unless there's authentic cross-cultural transmission. However, the content, while beautiful, contains nothing that couldn't have been compiled by a thoughtful Christian writer familiar with Paul's letters and the Gospels. There's no smoking gun. So where does that leave us? Perhaps authorship isn't most important. These triads represent something remarkable, an early attempt to translate Christianity's radical message into a form resonating with Celtic culture. Whether Paul himself did this during a British visit, or whether later Christian teachers did it in his name and spirit, the result speaks across centuries with clarity and power. The wisdom isn't dated. Read these triads again and ask, how do I respond to those who wrong me? Am I marked by gentleness and patience? What are my chief duties? Where am I seeking God? These questions remain as relevant today as 2,000 years ago. The Triads of Saint Paul remain a beautiful, challenging enigma. They remind us that the early Christian world was far more complex, diverse, and geographically expansive than we sometimes imagine. Did Paul walk the hills of Wales? Did he share Christ's message with druids and bards in forms they could remember? We have these triads, preserved through centuries, inviting us into a way of life marked by love, justice, humility, and grace. Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep growing. If you would like further context and the rest of the story, check out previous videos and future videos. If you would like more information where to research this subject, pause this image and look into these resources or find resources in description. If you have book sources or links of your own on this subject, please share in comments or email me. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe for more great content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.